Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up, babe. Tonight we gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up now. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up, babe. Tonight we gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up now.
Hello, everyone. Happy morning. I think it's Friday. It might be Friday. The days are starting to do their blending together thing because I keep getting up so early. Even when we're not doing the Job and Jug show, I still keep waking up early. What the hell? So, let's do a thing. All right. There's a bunch of stuff I want to talk about today. First of all, I'm having medical issues. Very much by surprise, so I may have to run very suddenly. If that happens, I'm going to try to put a video on for you folks. Hopefully it won't come to that, but I want to warn you up front. Second, some good news. There's been a whole lot of trans hate going around lately, so I want to open this show with some trans joy. Today is 1.5 years of HRT for me. I've been trans for a long fucking time, but I finally got access to HRT on leap year of last year. So it's a 1.5 years. Fuck yeah. And my goodness, folks, there's still a long goddamn way to go. But we've come a long goddamn way. And that's pretty fucking cool. I know, all my personal celebrations seem to be clustered somewhere around August, aren't they? That's how it goes, I suppose. I also want to share some other random bits from my life. The other day I went to the store. I had to go get groceries, as we all do from time to time. And, well, I went to 2 stores. At the first one, the clerk mansplained to me about one of my own state's laws, which is always, it's that euphoria thing. It's like ew, but also for whatever. But then I went to the actual grocery store, and the cashier there first complimented me on my hat. Everybody, my hat gets all the attention. I should wear less fancy hats if I want some attention for me. But she complimented my hat, and we discussed how hats are like this great fashion accessory that's hugely underutilized, which, I've been preaching about for years. I'm just putting my money where my mouth is now that I have the chance to use them. But then I should say they didn't reveal that. Yes, we talked a bit. They came out to me. They had pins. I just hadn't looked. But they were just like, I don't know. It was one of those info dump situations because the person like had just gotten into a new relationship, and it was like a really, really progressive person who it just finding a person who isn't a douche canoe in this world is just not easy. So, yeah, TLDR, we were discussing trans stuff in the state of the world as I checked out my groceries. And I can't remember exactly what I said. It was a few days ago. And like I said, everything's running together on me. But they did a double take at me and went, and like we were talking about my oldest, who's openly non-binary and also a working biomedical scientist. And I said something, and they looked at me and went, "Wait, you're trans too?" And I'm like, are you another trans person asking me the fuck? So it was a great conversation. It was wonderful and uplifting that there's still nice people in the world, but it also kind of made my day. Say la vie. The other thing I wanted to mention was I was just randomly thinking as I was waking up and wondering why I couldn't go back to sleep this morning when I got my car. You probably recall my old car exploded again last fall, and I had to get a new one in December. And when I went to get the car, I went back to the same place I'd gotten the previous car because being a very poor person, I have not great credit, and this place doesn't credit check. They overcharge, but they don't credit check. So I was able to just get a car. And the thing was, the last time I'd gotten a car was before my name change and all of that legal stuff. So they had me in their system, but they had me under my old name. In order to do the financing, they still need your ID and your social security number and pay stubs and all the same stuff banks ask for. And they took the stuff. They did not ask any questions. They just quietly updated me in their system and started referring to me correctly. And that was fucking beautiful. That's like, just do it. Just bloop. And we're like, there's no reason to make a fuss or have a commotion. You just bloop. Information's updated. That's it. So that was pretty neat. I like that a lot. It was a minor detail from several months ago, but given the state of the world right now, it helps. I think it helps because it models what could be and how none of this has to be a big deal. We could just all get along, to borrow a phrase from the 90s. Okay, so now I wanted to get that out up front because the people who need to hear it need it first. And everybody else it won't hurt. Maybe even give them some hope for humanity. I don't know. But I do have a couple of things I wanted to talk about today. The first is, as the cover, the thumbnail shows, there's some weird shit going on with the transphobes. I mean, there always is. They're obsessed with other people's genitals and think about them constantly. Of course there's some weird shit going on. But I mean, like, they're pivoting to a weird kind of extra conservatism or something. Like they're not even fake liberal anymore. They're, at least some of them specifically, are openly conservative now. Awesome. But also, the topic I want to bring up first, because I was inspired. I was watching Mark last night, and he mentioned Drew, the genetically modified skeptic's video about the futility of debate. And if you haven't seen it, TLDR, Drew poses that not only do debates never seem to change anyone's mind, and there are a few people who change their minds, it's true, but the interlocutors never move. The hosts never move. The majority of the fan base in the chats never move. Like, they don't even question their own position. So it seems futile. But more importantly, he points to the famous Ken Ham versus Bill Nye debate and how Ken Ham got destroyed on stage by any metric other than extreme Ken Ham fanboy bias. And yet, because of that, Ken Ham raised $23 million in some ridiculously short period of time to build his giant fake boat. And that's true pretty much everywhere else. From here on YouTube, from the biggest channels to the smallest little things like standing for creationism. Even the small ones are several times the size most of our channels and make most of their money off of views and super chats and donations and supporters and so forth from those debates. By participating in these debates, we are funding the spreading of more creationism, of more conspiracy theories, of more nationalism. We're funding the stripping of our own rights. It seems kind of counterproductive. It seems to me the obvious solution is we need to stop putting the debates on their platforms. But there's an issue. You see, we've tried having secular platforms. It doesn't really work all that well. Because when someone like Standing for Creation has a science advocate stand up to the conspiracy person du jour, they look like they're being open-minded. They look like they're being open to challenge. You know, they stand firm in their beliefs on the strength of the evidence, not because of dogma. And that's why they keep withstanding challenge after challenge or some nonsense like that. Even while they're being super dishonest about acknowledging point after point after point and then never changing their position to match the evidence they just agreed to. Because it doesn't matter if they lose. They get paid. That's what they're actually there for. And they can do that because it makes them look super honest. But it doesn't work the other way. You can have a secular platform, but if you bring someone up onto it, if you platform a person who is a conspiracy theorist or a pseudoscientist or a nationalist, does that make you look open-minded? Fuck no. It makes you look gullible at best, or you get devoured. You know, the left eats their own, as they say. You get canceled. You get shuffled off as why is this person platforming? Enter your favorite hate preacher here, you know? And I'm not saying people should react one way or another about that. That's not the point of what I'm saying here. The point is secular folks cannot platform the hate squad the same way the hate squad can platform us. Because it always goes against them. So what do we do? I don't know. Speaking only for myself, I haven't been to a theist-owned platform for debate in a couple of years. Which means, aside from satirical debates, I haven't done a debate in a couple of years. Because there aren't any. I know there are some. I see Let's Farm in the chat. I know Let's Farm has a channel, Let's Debate. I'm not saying you don't exist. I'm not trying to erase you. I'm pointing to the problem we have with debates on the major scale. It just... I don't have a good answer. I don't. All we can do, as I see it, is maintain our own integrity, our own morals. If you subscribe to moralism, you wokies out there. Um, I don't know. If you have thoughts, feel free to drop them. I'd love to discuss this. There just there doesn't seem to be a clean way to solve the problem. But in the meantime, I don't believe debate is actually useless. There are people who care about these topics and want to hear what the other side has to say, even if they're inspiring future debaters. Like my debate teacher used to always say, if you can't present the other side's argument at least as well as they can, you don't actually understand it. But critical thinking isn't the majority of the audience. Yes, audience. It just, I don't know. We can ponder it, we can think about it. We can try to figure things out. Okay, so we may come back to that depending on how the chat goes. And I see you folks. Thank you so much for joining me. This, what does Chris say? This ungodly hour. And it is. I'd like to put Java and Jugs, the show I do with Maya and so many other lovely ladies, in this time slot. We're still working out the technology. We're still hopeful to do it maybe next week. Stay tuned. But for right now, it's just little old me. And I want to talk about the silly, crazy shit that some of these professional transphobes are doing. So let's transform, as Uncle Bobby often said, and switch over. Now we're in the mode. Oh, yes, of course. Thank you, little button Ember. If you're new here, by chance, if you're just catching this video, do take a minute to subscribe. It helps ever so much. We're trying to grow the channel, trying to grow the community, and trying to, promote there being content at different times of the day. And it would make me happy. And, making me happy is always a good reason to do things too. Okay, so this is Kathleen Stock. She is a former philosophist, or philosophist, if you prefer, because all I've ever heard from her is sophistry, but that's neither here nor there. We've covered a couple of her performances in the past. She is an open lesbian who hates women. I don't know. That's just where we're at. She quit her job as a professor because she was actively campaigning against women's rights, and the students didn't like it. The women students in her philosophy class did not care for that. So the university reprimanded her, and instead of doing better, she threw a hissy fit and quit. And she's been making a career out of being a professional transphobe ever since, getting invited to festivals and universities and all over the bloody place. But since the election last year, the changes in the UK, the transphobes pretty much have power everywhere they're currently active. So there hasn't been as much call for a member of the LGBT to speak up about how horrible the LGBT is. There's still some. She could have a YouTube channel like certain other creators, but not as much as there used to be. So she started working for one of these "we're constantly canceled" giant conservative platforms. C'est la vie. And she has opinions about a certain creator. You may know the name Bonnie Blue. It's been popular in the last few months. If you haven't heard of Bonnie, she is an adult content creator. She has an OnlyFans and is making shit tons of money at using her body for her own benefit instead of some capitalist overlord. How dare she? And so here's Kathleen, a woman-hating lesbian, an anti-trans crusader, here to opine about how horrible that is, I suppose. Now, I just want to play a soundbite from this point in the video, and then we'll go back. It really sets the stage, I think.
that there's something exceptionally ugly about sexual culture, and it won't get better on its own.
There's something exceptionally ugly about sexual culture, and it won't get better on its own. What are we supposed to make of that? I mean, I realize that conservatives and regressives have a big problem with the way us progressive folks are all sex positive and women's liberation, and you should have autonomy to do with your body what you wish, to sleep with who you want. There's something ugly about it, though. And more importantly, we, meaning they, have to take deliberate and intentional action to take control of the situation and force people to comply with what they think is best. Boy, does this sound familiar. All right, let's rewind to the video, the beginning, and this should be interesting. Whee! All right, the first part is just where they do that thing where, you know what, I can just skip forward by chunks. No, that might be too far. They do that thing where they play part of the video and then do the intro. I don't see it. Where's the damn intro? Is it a minute long? Let's find out. Let's find out together. I should have written it down, but like I said, had a medical issue this morning. I'm doing my best.
I'm talking about Kathleen Stock, who you may think of as someone who became famous for...
Yep, we're still doing the introduction. Yeah, the taboo around gender identity has a chilling effect on academics. Gender identity. Weird way to phrase being a misogynist. And she likes to make this whole thing, I was forced out. She quit. She voluntarily resigned. Because she would not be told that hating her students was wrong for a professor to do. Or maybe not wrong, but improper, unprofessional. Holy shit.
For bringing sanity to the gender question.
Sanity! Oh goodness. Yeah, they introduced for a while.
You wrote this most extraordinary piece in Unheard, which connected those two experiences, which might appear to most people to...
Okay, let's go back slightly because it frames this discussion.
Last week, to go and look at the premiere of someone called Bonnie Blue. And later that week, you went to the Roger Scruton Foundation to talk about philosophy, and you wrote this most extraordinary piece in Unheard, which connected those two experiences, which might appear to most people to be completely opposite. Can we...
Right, what does the one thing have to do with anything else? I'm sure, as a former philosophistry professor, she'll lay it out for us. But what do you mean, Kathleen? Do tell, do tell. Oh my goodness. Let me know how, as always, let me know how the audio is. I'm constantly tinkering. My ears haven't been working super well, so I'm like trying to balance the output of my speaker because I can't use headphones of any kind to make sure it doesn't get into the mic, but I also want it to go out loud enough so you folks can hear it in a fair balance. So yeah, I mean, anything could glitch at any time. We know how this goes. So do keep me appraised. But yeah, so okay, Bonnie Blue versus academia, I guess. Let's see where this goes.
Start with the first one. So Bonnie Blue, for the hopefully majority of people watching this, let's hope that they don't yet know who she is a porn star.
She's a porn star, but she's a porn star that's come up through OnlyFans, which is...
So that's... I like people reclaiming the term porn star because it does have that derogatory category, at least for women. For men, it's like supposedly, oh, he's a porn star. He can go all night kind of thing. But for women, it's, ugh, gross. But that isn't really accurate. She does create adult content, but whereas a porn star works for a producer on a production and gets paid a regular salary, she works for herself. The platform gets a cut. OnlyFans takes a cut of what she produces. But she's producing her own content for herself on her own schedule, and just, it's a little bit different. And so in this case, using the term porn star is intended both to denigrate and to minimize her agency, which is some interesting rhetorical choices for the former professor.
Revolutionizing porn content. So that's a significant thing about her, that she has subscribers to her channel. In fact, she's not with OnlyFans anymore for reasons we'll go into.
Oh, okay. She left OnlyFans. She has her own thing, I guess. But yeah.
She became known through OnlyFans, and she has become famous or infamous for the extreme sex stunts that she performs. She's sort of in competition.
I would love to see the website with the extreme sex stunts, because just having a large number of participants, it's impressive, but is it really a stunt? Like, show me the person who's hang gliding and having sex, or bungee jumping and having sex. That could be in, like, show me the stunts. I bet there's a market for that.
With this other creator called Lily Phillips, and I've written about both of them before. There's this bizarre rivalry between them.
You know, for a lesbian, she's watching a whole lot of hetero porn, apparently.
To outdo each other in how many men they can sleep.
Oh, look at this. Beware the impurity spiral. Naked cam girls are getting ever more freaky. Oh my goodness. Kathleen Stock article, January 31st of this year. Like, she's not even making a pretense of being a reasonable person. She's just straight up. It's not a dog whistle. It's a straight up bullhorn call to the purity culture people, knowing that she is an open lesbian. How is this going to go for you, Kathleen?
Or not sleep with, God. That's a misnomer, but basically have sex with, or have some kind of sexual contact with, in a certain number of hours. It's like a, awful Guinness Book of Records challenge or something.
Guinness Book does not keep track of that. No, So her first video, she had 1,057 partners in just under 12 hours. And then she did it again with just under 24 hours, and I think it was 2,048 partners or something. Whatever. She made the news because apparently she got pregnant from one of those. Shrug. I believe in bodily autonomy. If she doesn't want to be pregnant, there's things we can do about that. And if she does, I mean, hell, like, how great is this career that she gets to do what she wants in the way she wants, get paid for it, and if she wants the baby, get a baby out of it. Bonus, if you're into that kind of thing.
Both of them, but let's talk about Bonnie. The gimmick is ordinary men from the street, not content creators. So she puts out these calls. If you're barely legal or barely breathing, meet me in Oxford Circus. She hires an Airbnb. She films penetrative sex with these men who are sort of...
Now, that is one area where I take a slight bit of my own ethical stand. It's a little objectifying in the men direction. And I get it, that there is a certain poetic justice in a woman who is denigrated by society for being autonomous and sex positive, in objectifying her subjects, I guess, for lack of a better term. But I'm still not a big fan of objectifying people regardless of what their equipment is. But that's just my own hang-up.
In a queue, some of them wearing balaclavas because they don't want their wives to see them. And then she sells that content back to her channel for clicks. So that's the...
Well, she doesn't sell the content to her channel. She makes it for her channel. I don't know if Kathleen understands how the internet works. Like right now, I'm not recording this and then selling it to myself to put on YouTube, I am putting it on YouTube. Like, there's several middlemen that are not in the way.
That's the business model, and it served her really well. She's making millions, and OnlyFans itself has just floated for $8 billion.
She should.
So
it's worth saying the reason she.
And also worth noting, OnlyFans has lost a lot of creators in recent years because they keep getting more restrictive about what they allow on their platform. And also, contrary to popular opinion, OnlyFans is not strictly for adult content creators, like Kathleen is making it out to be. That's the part that gets the most talked about, obviously. But there's whole other sections of that site. I believe last year the top 3 earners didn't do anything adult content related. Like, one person is like dad tips or something, like how to change a tire kind of stuff. People subscribe for that. If it's good, they do. Yeah, absolutely.
Got extra infamous was that supposedly more than 1,000 men had sex with her in one 24-hour period in one of these.
Well, 12 actually.
Sessions.
12. Yes, I mean, whether that's true, I don't see how it's possible. But in this,
she doesn't see how it's possible. Okay, let's do the math. Let me pull up my calculator here. And okay, so 1,000. Let's just do 1,000. I know the sign said 1,057, but let's do 1,000 divided by 12 hours. So 83 1/3 men per hour divided by 60 minutes. 1.38 repeating men per minute. So that works out to something like a man every 43 seconds. If the rumors are true about the average man lasting 10 to 12 seconds, that's plenty of time. You can even build in a lunch break or a couple of bathroom stops. If you're quick, 2 minutes or less. Yeah, absolutely. You can do that, for sure.
Channel 4 have made a documentary about her, which is the sort of pretext, and I went to see this documentary at Channel 4.
Don't get me wrong, that would be a hard day. A 12-hour day of work. Like, because even if you're a pillow princess, it takes some effort, Like, my goodness. At least, depending on position, she's got back support.
But in that documentary, they follow her for the period in which she's having this enormous...
Sapphire says, you can double up to save time. And you are not wrong.
Orgy, basically, on camera. She recruits 1,057, she says, men.
Is it an orgy? An orgy, to me, an orgy is multiple couples doing things at the same time. She's just using the term orgy evocatively to make people think a certain thing that isn't necessarily true or indicated by the evidence, because she's a philosophist. But I digress. When you have like 1 or even 2 partners at a time waiting in line, that's not an orgy. That's a drive-through. It's single serve with lots of customers. That's it. Now, if she charged each of them $1, I mean, she wouldn't, because that would, you can do it if you're filming it, but it makes it complicated, and she'd make $1,000 as opposed to the millions she's making doing it this way. It would just be fun, I think. Like, have a bouncer at the door taking $1 from everybody as they come in.
And they're just all waiting in line.
Are they actually putting out the sex scenes on terrestrial TV?
Yes, they are. So part of this Channel 4 documentary actually...
Oh no, a documentary included source material about the thing it was talking about. How dare they? The people of the UK, the viewers of Channel 4, are far too sensitive to be exposed to humans. Oh no. I mean, they talk about genitals constantly, but God forbid they see one. And I don't even know, I didn't see the Channel 4 documentary. I'm not in the UK. But, I mean, how explicit are we talking? This is the BBC, after all.
Uses some, I think I'm not sure if it's their footage or her footage, but anyway, there's some extremely explicit footage of what goes on in that room as part of the documentary.
I'm just going to pause here and address this question, because why are we even talking about her? She's on the front cover of the Times, interviewed by prestigious interviewers who normally are talking to politicians or captains of industry with a special photo shoot. She's all over the place, and the mainstream media are giving her huge amounts of airtime and boosting her profile in this way that is obviously titillating.
Because marketing, yay capitalism. Yes, she's doing the capitalist thing. Even as she seizes the means of production. It's kind of fucking magical. It's glorious. Now, not a fan of capitalism or the way the system works, how you have to whore yourself out for marketing purposes, which I am bad at, I admit. But she's using the tools that exist in the way they're designed to be used. As conservatives, isn't that what you want? Isn't that what you want to see small businesses do? Do something novel. Do something nobody else is doing, make a better product, and then promote it fucking everywhere. Isn't that what they want?
And obviously is selling newspapers, and kind of people are interested in it. And then there's a sort of softly critical gloss. What's your take on that? And are we guilty of it ourselves?
Yeah, well, I'm not softly critical. I try and bring out the human aspects of this situation.
And I love how the host just pins the irony. He's like, look at this irony. We're complaining about how she's getting so much media attention. And she's making millions based on what she does that we don't like because she's getting so much media attention. And here we are, a media organization bringing her more attention. What are we doing? What up? And Kathleen just doesn't even zoom. And this is why it kind of connects to the debate thing. Because we're accidentally bringing attention to the people who do not need any more attention. Now, that's a minor detail compared to the funding of nationalism issue. But it's there, you know? I mean, we've heard for years now about the dangers of platforming some specific interlocutors because they're so destructive and so dishonest and so divisive and so bad intentioned. But I don't know if even platforming the good ones actually makes it better. It's hard to say. Like I said, it's a debate, and I don't have a clean answer. But I think as a community, we could do with talking about it more, and maybe we'll find a better answer.
And there's some quite amusing things about it in some ways, darkly amusing, which I try to bring out. But if the media entered into some kind of mutual agreement that they weren't going to ever talk about Bonnie Blue, perhaps that would help. But obviously it's a collective action problem, and some people are going to be talking about her. More to the point, she's got enormous reach through OnlyFans. In fact, it's part of her deliberate strategy to become as notorious and provocative as possible in order that her name grows. So I think at some point
Oh, she's copying the conservative plan. She's using the tools that MAGA and the others left out for her, and she's just picking them up and using them. Oh, let's just be maximally controversial. And it's working. Because this is the world you made, Kathleen. You helped build this. But how dare a woman make use of it?
You just got to allow that she's out there, and we need to think about what the response should be to people like her. Not her in particular, but she's not the only one. There's this other woman, like I said, Lily Phillips, who's also engaged in these stunts. And more to the point, in the UK, one of the facts that did come out in this documentary is that we've got one of the highest numbers of content creators in the world in the UK. So Bonnie Blue and Lily Phillips are the most notable.
Oh no. The UK has a high proportion of adult creators. Almost like, I don't know, autonomy or something. We can't have that. That's shameful. Women having rights, having the ability to do what they want and live as they choose. Disgraceful. We must do something about it.
Notorious, but chances are, you probably even know a content creator. And I certainly know that when I was teaching in universities, some of my students were content creators. So this is a phenomenon that needs addressing and analysing.
I guess
does it need addressing? Does it need... When people are able to do what they want, things that are none of your fucking business, unless you're one of their customers, it needs addressing? Does it, Kathleen? I mean, think about this for a minute. Not long ago, especially in the UK, it was actually law that there were certain things lesbians could not do because people thought it was their business what other people did. Is this a trail you really want to go down, Kathleen? I broke it.
To you or I, or maybe to our listeners and viewers, it might obviously be just frankly disgusting to be attempting to...
Maya makes a good point. Is she equivocating content creator with sex worker? I think she's using it as a euphemism, but it's a very poorly chosen euphemism because she herself is a content creator. So if she wants those words to become synonyms, what does that mean for her? Oh my goodness. Oh, Miranda says, gasp, knowing a content creator. I guarantee every single person in this chat knows multiple content creators. Every single person who views this after the fact knows multiple content creators, whether they know it or not. Although I think most of them do, because virtually all of us mention it at least at some point. I can think of a couple of friends who actively promote their content creation thing. I stopped because I was getting weird people. I mean, not weird people, like, I don't mind people being weird. It's people being weird, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to get into it right now. It's too much of a tangent even for me for this show. But maybe we'll do another show about that at some point. We'll see. But holy crow.
To have sex with 1,000
yes,
men
it's
in one
utterly
day.
disgusting.
It's just obviously utterly disgusting and reprehensible.
Sex is disgusting and reprehensible. Welcome to Puritanism. I guess it's version 5 at this point.
Even.
Well, but next week they'll complain about the low birth rates.
I mean, most people, if you thought about your children growing up and doing something like that, would be absolutely appalled. I feel like intuitively, those kinds of feminists.
I'm looking at the book on his shelf. I can't tell if it says... It looks like it says X-Men. E-X-M-E-N. But there may be another letter before that. Maybe it's a T, like Tex-Men? I don't know. Why is he displaying the books like that? It's very peculiar. I mean, these bookcase arrangements, oh, I'm very well read, but the books aren't stored correctly in any particular order, and there's a bunch of other shit filling the shelves, like that random light, and of course the logo for the production company and things. It's just set dressing. But like, did they just cram random books in there, or are those there by choice? Like, the one at the bottom of that stack next to the glowing thing says The Plague Year. Oh, I bet it is X-Men, and the thing that might be another letter is either the publisher or the author's name turned vertically. Maybe, I don't know. Another one says The Breakup. Oh, it's so small and out of focus, I can't quite tell. But it's fascinating. I realize no one cares. I'm just a book nerd, but like I kind of want to analyze the books in the backgrounds of videos.
who used to talk about sex work as some kind of empowering thing to do would have a very difficult time defending this.
I actually don't know about that. I agree it needs to be pushed back. I think we need to develop a vocabulary very fast to address this with some disapproval, which does not obviously mean stringing anyone up for it, but much more basically being able to say this is wrong.
Stringing anyone up for it. Giggity, giggity. I mean, so there's videos for that too, if that's what you're into. But this whole judgment thing, this is wrong, this is disgusting, this is disgraceful. Kathleen, you are a lesbian. The people you work for think you existing is disgusting, disgraceful, and wrong. How do you not see? Okay, in fairness, she is not a stupid person. She's a very dishonest person. But she is not stupid. I don't... Is it a pick-me thing? I mean, we know she's doing it to get some of that sweet, sweet right-wing money. Obviously. Because there are no true believers on the right. They are all trolls and grifters. At least, okay, in fairness, I should say, I have never seen a person who genuinely believes the bullshit they push on the right. It's all trolling. But that doesn't preclude the possibility there might be one. Let me be fair about that. There could be someone somewhere who legitimately believes the bullshit. But going again, I mean, for fuck's sake, the main thrust against gays and lesbians decades ago was that it's a sexual perversion. Is sexual perversion the hill you want to die on, Kathleen? Because they will fucking crucify you on it. Enlightened self-interest, I suppose. Or maybe the money's worth it. Maybe she doesn't give a fuck anymore. I don't know.
This is absolutely wrong. And funnily enough, at this premiere, which was full of journalists and the documentary maker was there, and she seemed to be a nice liberal woman who started off sort of saying that she was a bit worried for her teenage daughter, what all this meant, but then ended up pretty much making a fairly non-judgmental film for a start. And secondly, in the questioning, proved utterly incapable of saying anything remotely critical. I mean, it was all like, well, it's her thing, we should park our judgment. And I just think actually the feminism has mainstream feminism doesn't really have any tools to criticize this because of choice. This, the word choice,
Feminism, women's liberation. The concept that women should have autonomy over their own bodies, and had a whole fucking decades-long civil rights campaign about sexual freedom, doesn't have the tools to condemn this. I'm starting to wonder if Kathleen, a former philosophy professor, understands what feminism is.
It's her choice.
My body, my choice.
Yes, and that's exactly what Bonnie Blue says. She says, I'm what you've been working for. I'm a girl boss. I'm an entrepreneur. I make lots of money. I'm completely in control. I consent. I know what I like and what I don't. And I'm keen to say when I don't want something and when I do. So,
right. I mean, me personally, I may dislike Bonnie Blue as a person if I ever got to know her. I know nothing about her. I don't know her hobbies. I don't know her politics. I don't know who she voted for or why or what her favorite brand of potato crisps is. Nor do I care. It doesn't matter. Because she is doing what is absolutely within her rights to do. And the only objection to why she shouldn't be allowed to do that is, oh, well, it's distasteful. Hold on. I need to clutch my pearls. We have to hold them tight. Make sure the mean adult content creators can't look at them.
As far as she's concerned, it's all fine. So what are we going to say to that? And I think it's going to require us to have a richer vocabulary than just, oh, well, if you like it, it's okay.
And I think that's where...
That is super dishonest. Because no one has ever been like, if you like it, it's okay. We have never come anywhere close to that. Because first of all, there are reasonable considerations. Health risks, for instance. The possibility of catching STIs in Bonnie's case, but a lot of other things. We don't let people just do whatever random drugs off the street because it's not safe. We don't let people rob banks willy-nilly because they like it, so it's okay. That's not how anything works, and to represent it that way is super fucking dishonest. But the other side of the coin is if someone else thinks what you're doing isn't okay, for no reason other than they're being judgmental, should they get a say-so in what you do, Kathleen? There's entailments to the positions you're representing. As a philosopher, you might be familiar with the concept.
The second part of our conversation about Roger Scruton is going to come in, but just before we get into that, tell us a bit more about what your sense was on just a human level of seeing this woman. She used to be an NHS finance recruiter, apparently.
Yeah, she did.
And in your piece, you said that her mum and dad were at this screening.
Well, her mum and her granny. Actually, her dad wasn't mentioned, but her mum and her granny was there.
I mean,
she did
what was on the face of the granny?
Well, I did that. We were all in this auditorium. I mean, the only bit of sort of shadow of something approaching shame that Bonnie Blue showed was when she said that afterwards she was a bit surprised. She hadn't seen...
Why should she be ashamed? You think she should be ashamed, but why should she be ashamed? What utility does it serve? What does she gain from it? How does it benefit her life to feel shame? What good is shame? And this is the central question for all these discussions about bodily autonomy. What is the purpose of shame in our civilization? To shun, to ostracize, to denigrate, to spread hate, to control. To tell people how they are allowed to live their lives. Sometimes there's good reasons for that kind of thing. Like we don't allow people to rob banks all willy-nilly just because they like it, so it must be okay. There's social utility to those things. Those are crimes. Being a criminal is shameful. But that's a little different from what we're talking about. We're talking about arbitrary, moralistic, condescending, judgmental shaming. Why the fuck should she be ashamed?
The film before. No, so this we were all seeing it for the first time. She didn't know that it was going to be that explicit. And she said something like, sorry, Gran, or something like that. But her mum's fully aware because her mum's like, I don't know, somehow involved in her career. So what's she like? Well, she's funny. She's very, very quick-witted and she makes jokes all the time. It would be very difficult to say that she's deeply disturbed by what she's doing. I don't think she is at all. She says, I don't feel like emotion.
No, why should she be? Why would she be? I mean, hell, I know several women who would be like handing out high fives, like, girl, get some, yes. Like, why would it bother her? If it did, she wouldn't be doing it because that is a very much opt-in industry. My goodness.
Emotions like other people, and I really did believe her. I think I basically say, cheerfully sociopathic, and I don't mean that in a sort of criminal way, but I just mean she's not really in touch with feelings that lots of other people are in touch with, and that seems really clear.
So I want to use the term sociopathic, but then immediately walk it back to say, I'm not saying that in the thing the word means. I just mean she doesn't seem to care about the things I care about. Why? We have to make her.
Reminds me a little bit of Ayala, who we had on this show. Who
Possibly.
is
I mean, some people are.
OnlyFans creator and also feels strangely unemotional about sex.
Yeah, some people are. And you could say that's disassociation and you can speculate about what must have been traumatic in her life. But there's no sign in this particular case of any background trauma. And it just doesn't have to be. And again, I think this is the sort of liberal attempt to find something wrong with it usually takes a certain form, which is, there must be something.
The liberal attempt to find something wrong with it? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of liberals. I know the conversation often gets posed, at least here in the US, as conservative versus liberal. The liberals are the centrists. They're in the middle. They lean slightly to the right. They're not leftists. It's not a synonym, but it does go to show, first of all, that Americans have no idea what the fuck they're talking about when they propose that liberal and leftist are the same thing, but also that there's no fucking left in the United States. Because we don't say conservative versus leftist, or right versus left, or regressive versus progressive. We say conservative versus the middle, the milquetoast, the maintain the status quo. It's either regress or status quo. But I digress, as I often do. People come here for the tangents. What is this liberal? Why would the liberals be condemning? What do you mean? Why would they want that? This is the world we have based on the morals that your side has largely been responsible for sculpting. Why would they have a problem? I mean, aside from potentially herself and her other participants, I suppose, who is she hurting? Everybody involved is volunteering. And this is stuff that the conservatives are constantly saying needs to be more of. Insofar as women are baby factories and we need to make more babies. So what's the problem? I mean, hell, in the conservative utopia, women are chained to beds, and exactly this sort of line happens all day, every day, until a pregnancy is confirmed. And then there's a break for the pregnancy, and then right back at it to make more babies, because women are nothing but birthing chambers. It's such a weird thing for a lesbian to be advocating for. A woman who wants absolutely nothing to do with male body parts, advocating for herself to be subjected to constant male body parts, and doing it by condemning a person who chooses to do that. It's so freaking wild.
In her background that explains this. I don't think there is. I think she's just fine with it. She doesn't object in the same way that anyone else might. So,
oh yes, anyone else. No reasonable person who isn't traumatized would possibly subject themselves to this. What could be wrong with this woman? Consider this, Kathleen. What if she's fine with it because she is fine? She is a normal, well-adjusted, autonomous human being living her own life, and it's you who have cultural baggage, traumatic baggage, other bullshit getting in the way of seeing that you haven't dealt with. I mean, you quit your job because you weren't allowed to harass your students. I'm not going to say you're a psychopath. I don't throw diagnostic terms around all willy-nilly the same way you do, Kathleen. But you may want to talk to somebody about that.
Really, it's not a question of saving her from this. It's a question of all these other poor saps that are getting drawn into this myth that she's creating, that you won't feel anything, because most of us would feel something in that situation.
But
most of us would be destroyed by it.
Actually, no. Well, I can't speak for anybody else, but I can say, after my former spouse and I separated, and I became an over-the-road truck driver, as part of reclaiming my autonomy, I slept with literally everyone for several months. Like, I lost track of partners, and it was partly, to feel like I was a desirable person, like people wanted to be with me, kind of thing. And it wasn't as great as you might think. Like, for a while, it was empowering, I suppose, but it got old quickly. And after a very short period of time, it became meaningless. I found that it was leaving me with a hollow feeling, because while I was having the act that symbolized a connection with another person, the actual connection, the thing I actually wanted, wasn't there. And so it left me feeling hollow. And I've had a hard time connecting on that level ever since, because it turns out the thing I thought I wanted, I didn't actually want. But the reason I bring it up is because when you reach that point of having so many partners, there's no point counting them. You can't count them, you know? You don't feel anything really. It's like, it's just a fun thing to do when you're bored, I suppose. I mean, I lean towards Ace myself these days because sure, it feels nice, but like, I'd rather make a video. I'd rather hang out with you folks and you know, have a chat and discuss things. Maybe it'd be different if I found a partner that I had a connection with, but just on my own, I'd rather have garlic bread.
You will correct me here because you are the philosophy professor, but is that not still really a liberal critique to say that it sets an example that for less resilient or more vulnerable people could lead them into dangerous or difficult situations? What about condemning what she's doing on its own terms?
I think you can do both. I mean, the reason I mentioned that is because there's this highly disturbing part of the documentary, sort of the closest it gets to some kind of internal critique, where Bonnie, whose real name is Tia Billinger, it seems weird to call her Bonnie Blue. She's called...
It's the same as any other actor or performer. They use a stage name. What do you mean? Okay, her name's public. Fine, whatever. Does it matter, though? You want to call her by the name she's known by. But also, why would there be a critique in a thing about her thing? Why would it? Well, you know, these Christians, they get up here and preach about Jesus, but I have yet to hear a pastor give a sermon critiquing Christianity. Why would they do that? What do you mean?
Tia Billinger, but she hires a classroom and organizes a sex scene with these extremely young girls that, I mean, they're legal, but she's recruited them because they look really young. She dresses them up in school uniforms, and these are girls who are not like her. You know, these are nervous, stammering, tiny little accounts on OnlyFans, and the reason they're there, she's not...
So they are on OnlyFans. They did make the choice to become adult content creators. So first of all, again, Kathleen is watching a whole lot of porn, especially of straight people, but whatever. I don't know what that says. How is it, Kathleen, that you can watch hours and hours and hours of adult content and not feel shameful? How could you? Where is your moral center? Oh, the liberals making excuse. All the same things. All the same things Kathleen is saying can be directed against her. But I digress. These are not shy little people being intimidated into working with some big creator. They're being used or what. They made the choice to do it. They are doing it. They are owning their own bodily autonomy. What do you mean? What is this bullshit about? Oh, they're shy little nippikins who, they're perfectly innocent OnlyFans creators. The misrepresentation. Yeah, it turns out, as Miranda points out, she's promoting other women growing their own brands. The horror. I mean, we all, well, not we all, but like, those of us who are community-minded people, we tend to try to build awareness of other people in our community. When I catch wind of a new channel doing things that I think other people would like to know about, or an old channel that I'm just now finding out about and I wish someone had told me sooner, I try to bring it up. I mean, I'm endlessly randomly plugging people's stuff whenever it seems relevant. For example, L Trucker has a channel. Did you know L Trucker has a channel? He makes songs, irreverent songs about evil people. They're awfully fun. You should check them out. Just as a for example. Random plug. I do that from time to time. I also keep a page on my website specifically to show off creators I wish I'd known about sooner. BetterThanEmber.com. Right there on the screen. Page is called Creators. There's over 100 of them. My goodness. Yeah, promoting other people. I don't know that it necessarily helps your own brand, but it seems like the right thing to do, you know? But maybe that's just me. Maybe it's my lack of ethics makes me want to help the community that I feel at home in. I don't know. I'm probably silly.
Not paying them is to get involved with this so that they think they can get some traffic to their sites now. And so you just really see in action the sort of the drag of this, as it were, for people who are less cheerfully sociopathic.
And the involved...
They're sociopathic. Oh, everyone but me is a sociopath. Oh no. My fucking goodness. We also have lots of other creators in the chat. I've seen a bunch of you folks go by. My apologies. I see you. I appreciate you. But off the top of my chat, we have Maya Adkisson. Thank you for saying hit the like button. Please do. Also, please take a second to subscribe and ring the bell and share. Sharing really helps, especially for a show that's in a time slot like this where no one knows I'm here and doing the thing. So yeah, please do. But Maya has a channel. You've probably heard me talk about Bad Science Sunday. You may have heard about it on other channels. But TLDR, Maya brings a science weasel on who hates magnets, and they make fun of people spreading pseudoscience. And it's absolutely hilarious. And as the name implies, it's on Sundays. Sunday evenings, in fact. Ryan Cultastic has a channel. It's I forget if there's an underscore, but it's a goddess. Also on the list, on the website, possibly the first entry, first or second at the very least, because it starts with A. They're alphabetical. It's convenient that way. But yeah, Ryan has a channel. Lots of anti-cult content over there. Love to see it. And some funny stuff. And also a pooch named Pickles. So yeah, Let's Farm has a channel. Anarchic, do you have... Anarchic says, am I the only one without a channel? You may be Anarchic. Let's Farm has a channel. Let's Debate is the debate channel. Is there stuff on Let's Farm? I can't remember. But yeah, everyone. There's so many content creators. Except Anarchic, apparently. But Anarchic mods over on the line, particularly Takis, the Transatlantic Call-In Show, which is sort of like a pre-show for the Transpositions Weekly. I'm teasing. Takis gets a much bigger audience than we do. But, yeah. The line is one of the most important shows out there. Or, Takis is one of the most important shows, on the line or not. So, yes. I digress.
Of Channel 4, which is actually a...
Now that I've driven away approximately 30% of the viewers, we can continue.
Public service broadcaster, last time I checked, in theory, you can... Yeah. That's a fair critique, isn't it? Why are they airing scenes with these women?
Well, they don't air this. You don't see the scenes, right. Thank God. But no, that's the bit that actually comes closest to public interest because you see the sort of emotion. These girls are so nervous and they're stammering and they just look so vulnerable. They're not this sort of brassy kind of I don't care. They're not millionaires.
Oh, we can't have women building up their own confidence by doing their own thing. Oh, it would be the end of the world if every woman just took ownership of her own body and sexuality. A lesbian talking about how horrible it would be if women could own their own sexuality and, have confidence about who they are and what they do, how they live their lives. Unfucking real.
As they haven't got their own stylists and their own publicists, which she does, Bonnie Blue does. It's wrong. But anyway, you're right. I actually think that what we are failing to do is, as a collective culture, is to say that the harm is not always to be couched in terms of effect on vulnerable people. It degrades us all. It degrades sex.
What do you mean it degrades it? Where is this coming from? I hear so many conservatives talk about this kind of thing when they go get on their high horse about purity culture, but none of them explain what it means. How does it degrade you? What are you talking about? is being good at sex bad? Is having more experience and more skill at a thing undesirable? Does it diminish your quintessential soul, your magical afterlife nature, whatever the fuck they talk about? Like, what do you mean? And how does it do that? What if we flipped the script? What if we just arbitrarily said that being a virgin is disgraceful? That the people with the most partners and the most experience are to be the most admired because they can make people see God? What about that? We could do that. Why should we? Why shouldn't we? Is there any reason to take a moral stance on this characteristic? The fuck?
Itself. And this is where, since the next day I was going to Scrutopia, which is a summer school run in Roger Scruton's memory by his family and friends. And
Deviant, who helpfully posted a link to my fundraiser so I don't die. You know, I appreciate people contribute to that. Deviant says, "Hey y'all, ye beautifully sinful people, and Ember is always looking absolutely dashing in that cowl neck-esque top and necklace. Love it." Thank you, Deviant. It's actually just a regular t-shirt. I just have very bad posture. Like if I actually sit up straight. So I recorded a short video to be a proper outro because we have a shit ton of new members or rejoining members or whatever, however you want to look at it. And so I ended up, there's enough members to actually make an outro thanking supporters again. And it's been a while since we had that, because one of the perks of top level membership, there's 3 different levels. There's Match, which is just access to the emojis. There's Spark, which gets you members exclusive content, early releases and stuff. And then there's Cinder, which gets you special behind the scenes stuff, as well as a shout out when we do those. And so I had to record a new one. And while I was recording it, I noticed that I looked like I had no neck. I was all hunched over. It just, being in constant pain screws up a lot of things. But yeah, I do have to make a more conscious effort to actually sit up straight. We'll get there. Things are slowly getting better overall. But yeah, it is just a regular t-shirt. I just wanted to point out that I have incredibly bad posture lately. Because it comes up in the thank you outro.
colleagues, I thought I would revisit a book of his, which is called Sexual Desire, where he makes exactly that case, that sexual desire is something completely between 2 people and it's not objectifying. I mean, you could say this is idealistic, but at least he's trying to specify a conception of sex that's not religious, but it firmly puts some stuff beyond the pale. Because
so it should be non-religious, but also still sacred. And if it is sacred, if it is a thing blessed by your God or not God, whatever it is you're apparently worshiping, shouldn't you want to do it more often? If it is a blessed act, a holy act, shouldn't you want to do it more often? What is the problem here?
Because they are degrading, dehumanizing, objectifying, and, bring us all down into the gutter.
So let's just try and detail a bit more what his approach is, because the late Roger Scruton did have this quite special role in that I think he probably was a Christian or church-going, and sort of gently Church of England type of Christian, but not an especially religious one, it would appear. And the language...
Why are we tangenting about whether this person is a Christian or not? Like, if you're English, does it really matter? Because even the Christians are kind of pro forma Christians. They're like nominally Christians because it's like saying you speak English in England. Like, oh yes, I speak English. Oh yes, I'm a Christian. Like, what does it mean? Like, why? Why does it matter?
Well, not in his philosophy.
And not in his philosophy, right? So, and that's what's so valuable, I think, about what he was doing, because he can talk about moral questions and questions of things that are sacred without requiring you to be Christian or from a different religion to understand them. What is his argument for why sex is sacred?
You can understand it as part of his general quest to get rid of these reductive theories we all seem so entranced with, whether they're scientific ones or, in this case, sexology or psychoanalysts, sort of to try the pretenses and all these narratives of stripping back the appearances to
stripping and I didn't actually prepare for this because I'm bad at my job, but it's around here somewhere. Where the hell did I put it? I need to make like its own frickin' button. Where the hell is it? Where did I put it? This is a lot funnier if I can find the button. And isn't that what they always say? I swear I just saw it. I swear I just saw it. There it is. There it is. I think I'm going to move it further up in the thing. If you need stripping, go to adamandeve.com and enter code word Brentley to get 50% off almost any one item, 6 free movies, 3 free gifts, and free shipping on the whole order. Not sponsored, not my ad. I just stole it from Brentley because I'm a fucking pirate and I think it's hilarious. But do go to adamandeve.com, enter code word Brentley, and, get yourself some good stuff. I know that's not what he says. I'm appropriating over here. It's okay.
the real stuff. So in the world of sex, it's like, oh, we've got all these sort of old-fashioned ideas that sex should be between two people that love each other. But, you know, that's just a mere cultural appearance. What we really need to do is go down to the basics, which is that it's just basically seeking pleasure through mutual masturbation, or it's a way of propagating our genes, or it's an attempt to regain childhood attachments that we've...
Yeah, why does it have to be just one thing? I mean, humans are complex, multifaceted individuals. I realize you're not a psychologist, you're a pretend philosopher, but you would still think like a general grasp of the way multiple ideas can interrelate would be part of your understanding, Kathleen. Maybe I'm silly. Maybe you've been hanging out with the right-wingers too long, and everything needs to be easy, quick, simple, single causes, and you already know what all those causes are. I don't know, but I also don't like that the other way around, that sex should be reserved for love, because it strongly implies that A, you shouldn't love anyone except your specific dedicated nesting romantic partner, however you want to phrase that. You can't love your kids, you can't love your friends, you can't, like... It's fucking weird. It's weird and harmful. And we can demonstrate that that is harmful. But set that aside. It also carries the entailment that sex is an obligation. If you love someone, you have to subject yourself and make your body available to them. And that is extremely not cool.
Repressed in a sort of Freudian vein, you know, but whatever it is, get rid of all that sort of cultural stuff and get back to the real stuff. But he points out you can't get, there is no deeper stuff here. There's just another set of appearances, and all we do.
And if you want to go deeper, go to adamandeve.com and enter code word Brentley for 50% off almost any one item, 6 free movies, 3 free gifts, and free shipping on the whole order. Still not sponsored, but it keeps getting funnier. I should have known. A video about a lesbian being super judgmental of people who have sex. I should have had that ready. I should have known better. That one's on me.
Do is to, you know, get rid of one set of enchanted, sacred, loving appearances, as it were. That is a cultural way of thinking about sex that has actually brought people together in union and has...
And if you want to be brought together in union, I'm not going to do it for every time. That's too much.
Fostered families and has, you know, had all sorts of useful effects as well. And we replaced it with promiscuity, debasement, prostitution, pornography.
Debasement? What does promiscuity have to do with debase? Like, some people are into that kind of thing. It can be a kink, but it's not the same. I mean, for fuck's sake, it's not like there's an obligation to be promiscuous. This is the abortion debate in different terms, right? It's saying, oh, if we let people have abortions, everyone will be getting them. No, the point of choice, like with all feminism, is you get a choice. You can choose for yourself instead of having someone like Kathleen Stock dictate to you how to live your life, how you have to live your life, who you can marry, who you can love, who you're allowed to have sex with, whether or not you have to carry a baby. It's the same thing, the same argument, using the same words.
Selling our bodies, or some people selling their bodies and other people buying their bodies. That's just another set of appearances. It doesn't get us any nearer the real phenomenon.
All capitalism is people selling their bodies and people buying other people's bodies. That's what labor is. That's what being a factory worker is. That's what being a farm worker is. It's what being a service worker is. It's what being a hospital caretaker is. Even a doctor. A doctor's paid a whole lot better than the candy stripers, but ultimately they're renting out some of their very limited time on this earth in return for money. From a philosophical standpoint, does it matter if they're producing adult content or curing cancer?
So that's the sort of strategy. And then he, as Roger, and I say Roger because I did actually know him a bit, so I'm not just being massively over familiar, but he was always very idealistic. In his definitions, he would basically take the version of the world he wanted and then just say, that is, I define whatever I'm looking at in terms of this kind of normative version. So in his work on imagination and fantasy, for instance, he makes fantasy all the bad stuff and imagination all the good stuff, which, is quite convenient and is not necessarily massively persuasive as a...
This is a hell of a tangent. I don't know if she's going to bring it back to something. But, I mean, as a philosopher, you want to define the terms of what you're talking about. A fantasy, it seems to me quite intuitive to understand, would be the good stuff. It's the stuff you like. It's your fantasy. It's what you're dreaming about, daydreaming, or like... What's the problem, Kathleen? We're nitpicking terminology. For why? And also, it's really obvious why he chose the terminology to be applied in the way he did. For clarity and because it fits.
Exercising conceptual analysis. But in this case, he's saying sexual desire, the good stuff. I'm just going to call that sexual desire, and I'm going to call all the other stuff that Bonnie Blue's up to, it's not really sexual desire, it's something else.
There is something to that, although that's more strongly in the realm of sexology than philosophy. But there's a bit of the field that's shaped that way. Everything that's normative, that's culturally accepted, arbitrarily, but is considered normal, then that's normal. It's a tautology. But everything else, that's a kink, that's a fetish, that's a paraphilia, that's deviant behavior. Why, though? It's arbitrary. It's completely arbitrary. We've gone well past the point of sex being purely utility for reproduction, although there are people campaigning to try to get back to that. But does it matter if you're doing it missionary style or in the fucking shower? Why is it anyone else's business if you do?
Now, whether that works or not, at least he gives us a story about this kind of mutual discovery of another person in the sexual act. It's very particular. You're discovering that particular person. You can't just ship in another person. You can't replace them with somebody else. You can't pay.
So many people in committed relationships fantasize about other people from time to time. That's completely fucking normal. I dare say virtually everyone does. because we can only gain information on that from surveys and self-reports, right? And some people are not honest on those kinds of surveys, even though they're anonymous. And we can test to see if they're being honest from certain other questions that are included. Some of these tests can be very sophisticated. It's hard to get solid numbers, is what I'm getting at. It very well could be 100%. But whether you do occasionally fantasize about another person or never do, it doesn't mean you're not normal. Fucking hell.
For it, it's the opposite of objectification. It's almost discovering who someone is in the act of like giving each other mutual pleasure. So
Per Scruton, it
reverse objectification? That's an interesting concept. I'm going to set that aside because that could be a very deep topic, and maybe we'll get into it another day.
it is, at its best at least, a soulful kind of act which requires more of you and is more significant than just a kind of bodily titillation.
exactly, and crucially, something I should have brought out is it's not directed towards body parts. It's directed towards a person, and the face is.
But you use the body parts. That's how you feel physical stimulation is with your body. But also, this is some kind of weird rarefication of the intensely physical act. And say, oh, I mean, it's the conclusion of purity culture, right? It's like, take your body completely out of the equation. Set that aside. It's not about your pleasure. It's about your devotion to your partner. What the fuck are we doing here?
Just as important as any.
That's the problem with what Bonnie Blue's doing and other adult creators. They don't have an owner. And in a society based on being owned, a society based on a cultural system laid out in a handcrafted religion that puts slavery as the pinnacle state of existence, as close to God as you can get is by being a slave intentionally, then control of your own destiny is wicked. Interesting.
Sort of particular body part. Now, I'm sure there are people listening thinking, rolling their eyes and going, oh, that's not what sex is like. How ridiculous, how refined, overly refined. But you look at Bonnie Blue, this documentary, and you see these men in balaclavas and boxer shorts snaking up the stairs. Their faces are not going to be involved in this,
She does make them wait in line. I mean, of course, what's a more efficient way to do it? But yeah.
Their identities, their names, nothing about them. They are getting 2 seconds of bodily contact with this woman. You start to think, well, maybe Scruton had a point.
So, although it's not couched in...
Do you start to think that? Do you? Because, like, what if it's not about the body parts for them? What if it's about an intense personal connection in that moment of physical connection?
Christian terms, it is somehow defiling something.
It's so wild that they're like trying so hard to put on this pretense of secularism. And they're constantly saying, well, in Christian terms, this would mean defiling. Defile my ass.
That should be sacred, or at least, I'm tempted back into this kind of liberal language, which is persuading people that you have worse sex or that you somehow reduce your net pleasure.
Reduce your net pleasure. Reduce your net value. That's what they mean by degrade. It's this red pill bullshit, which is very much related to the conservative view of ownership and being owned. If you're, if you're acting outside of your proprietary responsibilities, you're devaluing yourself. You're like a used car that's gone off of the dealer's parking lot. You're suddenly worth 30% less in Blue Book. Oh no, no one will want you. You'll be discounted. No one will finance your loan. Or something. Fucking hell. Oh my goodness. God damn it. I would rather have garlic bread. But it has been a long fucking time. Oh my goodness. But that's oh goodness. Yes, it doesn't fit her narrative. We can't have that. Oh no. Let's Farm says 3 at a time is not impossible, but it is exhausting. It can be exhausting. 5 at a time is technically doable, and with practice you can keep it up for a few hours. I'll tell you, it's better than CrossFit. I'll give it that.
Or at least flatten your whole existence in some way that is bad for you by pursuing this. I mean, is there a way of explaining it there? Because it is very hard to go down this road without just sounding like a censorious Victorian. So you'll think what you say about the language is so right. Like what kind of language?
Right, the Victorians are a fantastic example because there has never been a generation of human beings who were bigger freaks. They were kinky as hell. All of modern kink is derived from the light versions of the shit the Victorians got up to. And why were they like that? Because they were also so obsessed with purity culture. It's Puritan bullshit all the way down. But that's what they did publicly. It was all shame and condemnation and modesty. You mustn't let a man see your collarbones in public. But then they'd get freaky behind closed doors.
Can you use, which isn't necessarily Christian, but tries to communicate it?
See, maybe this is my idealism showing, but I think that the critics of the sort of things I'm saying are stuck in an old paradigm. You know, they literally are thinking, no doubt people will say, Kathleen, you sound so Victorian, as if, we're talking about remotely the same universe anymore. We're not. We're talking about a universe in which young girls can just from their bedrooms expose their body parts, stick stuff in them, have sex on camera.
This is a world where adult women, notice how she used young girls, because patronizing, taking ownership, I have to do this for your well-being, and minimizing their agency generally. All of that shit. But adult women can be unclothed in their own bedrooms. I have to clutch my pearls again. I'm so scared by all the liberated women. Whatever shall we do? It's the end of civilization. The sky is falling. Fucking hell.
Camera with endless men, so easily, and they're doing it. So, this is not, so in other words, I think we're reaching a point, it's a bit like boiling a frog. The frog is getting boiled, it's no longer just talking about a few unmarried mothers in the 60s or, just sex out of wedlock. We're not in that world anymore. We are in a completely...
But you're pushing to go back to that world. That's the entailment of what you're saying, Kathleen. The world where you would have to pretend to be straight. Where you would have to allow yourself to be used by your owner. I mean, your husband. Because you're his property. You're a philosopher. Think about what you're saying. Fuck.
A different world where our young people are going into that world and they are being exposed to this stuff. Even if we never talk about it, they will see it. As I say.
So why don't we talk about it? If it's inevitable, why don't we talk about it? This is the sex ed debate all over again, right? Like all these schools, we can't, we have to do abstinence only because we can't let the kids know sex exists. Except they do. You can't keep it from them. What the fuck do you mean? I'm on the wrong microphone. That's better. You've probably been hearing me correctly, but my system was connected to the wrong microphone. The OBS software that's broadcasting is picking up the right microphone, but my system was not, and that means my volume control was adjusting the microphone that isn't what I'm talking into. Love it.
I left university sector, 5 years ago? And when I left, there were young women supplementing their student incomes by doing OnlyFans work. I've no doubt that's increased.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of college students who do that, and it's not just women, Kathleen.
So, I feel like we don't really have to have many words. There's not a technical explanation of what this woman is doing, and by proxy, other women are doing, and men are too. I mean,
Oh, she is aware that men do it too. How equitable of her. We're 2/3 of the way through, and it's finally occurred to her that maybe she should point out, men also are allowed to have agency in this patriarchal world that she's pushing to be more patriarchal. Maybe.
Men are participating.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about feminism that always gets overlooked by the red pills and the regressives and even many of the liberals. It's not just about women. By fighting for women to have bodily autonomy, one of the entailments is everyone gets bodily autonomy. If you move back to this purity culture, slave mentality, control from above authoritarian bullshit, women are more controlled than men, but men, they get the top spot, but they're just the top of the slave pyramid. There's still slaves. There's still shit they can't do. They also cannot degrade themselves by being adult content creators. They can't not go to church on Sunday. There's a whole lot of things. Because that's the entire point of that sort of culture, is to control how everyone lives their lives.
It feels abhorrent. And all I'm asking is that we get better at saying so rather than waiting for laws to come in and fix it for us or somebody else to sort it out. We are going to have to start saying this is wrong.
I'm going to get one more.
But why is it wrong? You're just being moralistic for the sake of it. You're just saying, oh, you're impure, or you personally don't like it. Like, if Kathleen got on and said there's far too many hetero content creators, there's too many young women subjecting themselves to the eggplant emoji, and it's disgraceful. There should be far more lesbians out there. I could maybe see where she's coming from, as a dissatisfied customer who's trying to find more content for her that has her in mind as the audience. Yeah, I could see her campaigning for that. There needs to be more of this stuff because people like me make up, 10% of the population. Now, I realize that it's gays and lesbians together who make up something like 10% of the population. But the weird way, I mean, our culture is so messed up when it comes to sexuality that we have our orientations classified based on what we're attracted to relative to our own gender, rather than what we're attracted to. Wouldn't it make much more sense to say I'm femsexual, I'm attracted to feminine partners, or, masculine, I can't think of a good way to put it, attracted to masculine people? Like, does it matter what your own gender is? Because I know a lot of trans people, and weirdly enough, your attraction doesn't necessarily change. Sometimes it does. Sometimes. But often it doesn't. So you go from being apparently gay or straight to the other when your attraction hasn't actually changed. It's such a fucked up way to categorize things. Gynophilic. Thank you, Sapphire. Yes, that's a term I've heard. It's a great term. Or androphilic would be the opposite one. So yeah, that would work. Or, someone like I said, I'm very strongly in the gray side of ace. I'm not completely averse to adult fun time, but I'm not super interested in it either. But one of the big things that does make a person attractive to me is a big brain, regardless of what's in their pants.
Or go of more the philosophy professor with you, because it does remind me of the days when I was trying to understand Plato, this idea that, you know, the good, the true, and the beautiful. His ideas on sex were very much that impulse is in some way looking towards the good or the beautiful or some kind of true ideal out there.
Well, that's sort of the key of this is a huge tangent from them that they're not going to do justice to. But like when Plato was talking about what is good and what is beautiful, the point of trying to conceptualize an ideal was to demonstrate how absurd the concept is, because what is good, if not subjective, if not arbitrary? How do you possibly form that into an ideal?
Even if it's in a debased or less perfect way, and that in some way those sexual impulses are the noblest and best if they are directed in the right way. How would you explain that? And is Plato relevant?
Well, I'm not. I mean, I must admit, I use the word Platonic ideal as a sort of to explain roughly what he's doing, rather than to attribute a lot of Plato to Scruton. But
the philosopher misuses the term Platonic. Now, in fairness, culture does misuse the term Platonic. It refers to an ideal state. Based on that philosophy, there are things that can have ideals. In a logical, rational, syllogistic sense, you can make an argument showing that a thing has more of an ideal quality than others and extrapolate what the ideal might look like or something. But that's one of the reasons philosophy has been hung up on what is love for 4,000 years. Because how, what, why, etc. So many questions. This concept of platonic friendship to mean non-romantic, this is just a deficiency in the English language. In Greek, there's several different words for the various things that we all call love. It's almost a confabulation because we're talking about different things. I love coffee. I love dogs. I love my kids. And I'm also capable of participating in the act of love with another person that I don't actually feel any affection for. So love means lots of different things. Other languages have different words for those different things. English, not so great. So yeah, you can get some confusion, especially when you're misapplying a term like platonic to try to disambiguate this nonsense.
I mean, look, Scruton's a conservative in the sense that he wants to conserve the beautiful, the good, the true, the things that over centuries we cultures.
What is the beautiful, the good, the true? We use logic to try to eliminate the irrational and try to get closer to what's true in that respect. But it's much, much harder to demonstrate a thing is true. Sometimes it can be done, but not always. But how do we logically or philosophically arrive at a conclusion of what is beauty? How do we get there? It's always subjective. It's always at least partially arbitrary. I've heard poets make a more compelling case than philosophers when they suggest that beauty, the appreciation of beauty, always involves some element of pain. That is to say, longing. If we're here in New York and we see a painting of the Great Canyon, the Grand Canyon, whatever the hell it's called, we find it beautiful because it's very distant, it's very hard to get to, so we experience a little bit of longing for it. But if we're at the Grand Canyon, we don't really need a painting of it because the real thing is there. At the Grand Canyon, we might respond similarly to a painting of an ocean vista, for example. Possibly. And that's just landscapes. Landscapes are the least emotionally evocative of everything we paint except possibly fruit bowls.
Have, through what he would say, the invisible hand, you know, not meaning necessarily Adam Smith's market argument, but just a kind of unplanned result of civic associations.
Oh, guys, Ryan has returned. Clean up your chat. Don't let her know what we've been talking about. Anarchic says we can start the show again. Ryan is back. Yes. Yep. We've just been playing Tiddlywinks while you were away.
Got these beautiful institutions, these wonderful practices, these norms and conventions. Now he wants to keep them. At the moment, the internet is changing things so fast, particularly in terms of sexual culture, that
good. Sexual culture needs to change. It needs to catch up to the 1970s.
It's not so much keeping what's beautiful as fighting what's obviously ugly, I think.
What makes it obviously ugly? What is the difference between ugly and beautiful? Madame Philosopher, do describe your criteria of discernment.
And I think we're reaching a point where we can now see, most of us can see, if we're not pretending otherwise, that there's something exceptionally ugly about sexual culture, and it won't get better on its own.
What is it? Why is it? What does that mean? There's something ugly about sexual culture. What is it that disgusts you personally? What is it that makes it wrong in an intersubjective sense? What is it that you intend to do about it? And what are the entailments of that? You can tell she's been out of the philosophy game for quite a while, because she's not really thinking through things. She seems to be just saying what she expects the audience to want her to say, what she thinks she's being paid to say. She is, quite literally, pouring out her brain to her owners. We do have to participate. We have to take responsibility, and other things Scruton was very keen on. Right. Modern sexual culture in the age of the internet is all about responsibility. It's taking ownership of ourselves. It's doing as we wish because we are the responsible party. We are the decision makers. There is no culture of a council of conservative lesbians passing judgment on every OnlyFans creator and determining who they can sleep with or not. Nor should there be.
It's going to be down to individuals to push back against this culture rather than hoping someone else is going to sort it out.
So how?
And there it is. We need to rein in this culture and tell everyone else how they have to live, because no one else is going to do it. These silly people, they believe in freedom and autonomy. We have to step in and make the decisions for them. For some reason, on completely arbitrary criteria based on our own gut reactions out of fucking religious trauma or whatever. Who knows? Because they never fucking say. Holy shit.
How are we supposed to do that? Should we take to the streets with placards saying no more Bonnie Blue, down with OnlyFans? Should we?
Excellent question, random host person. What exactly are you calling for? What precisely is your prescription, Professor?
What are the practical
Why not?
steps?
I mean, actually, I don't mind that at all. But one thing I've noticed in the current discussion of the online safety bill, I follow and I'm in touch with a lot of people on the right, and I see a lot of criticism of the online safety bill, perhaps deservedly so. It does look like a bit of a dog's dinner, and there's lots of sorts of speech that look like they'll be affected that will be a problem. But what I don't hear is conservatives leading with clearly the intention to stop children looking at extreme pornography is
right. Conservatives don't give a fuck. Hurting children is their primary goal, as evidenced by every policy and speech they've all given in the past 10 years. But I digress. What they brush past there is several nations have instituted very conservative limits on free speech, access to certain websites. It's low-key censorship in that it's sort of reversed. Whereas, here in the US, we have the right to free speech. You can publish whatever you want so long as it doesn't break a law that harms someone else. For the most part. There are certain limits on that, but that's a subtopic. It's a tangent, if you will. The UK has something similar. So they've been trying to ban people's access to pornography for ages because it denigrates, it diminishes the culture. We need the pearls. It makes everything icky. Next thing you know, there'll be lesbians on the internet, openly existing and not even having sex with each other. The horror. The horror. So they passed bills that restrict the user rather than the publisher. You can still publish whatever you want, but users have to prove they pass a certain arbitrary barrier. There's gatekeeping. And it's proposed ostensibly to keep children away, but really that's not what it's doing, because children will age verify the same way they always have. They'll steal their parents' license or credit card or whatever it is they need and type that in, whatever. Or they'll get a fake one off the internet. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What it's keeping out is people who don't have those things. Like homeless people, for example. Here's a fun bit of completely unrelated trivia. As a homeless person in New York State, a very blue state, a very protect your rights kind of state, if you're homeless, you cannot get a driver's license. The reason being, one of the points of ID you need to present in order to prove you're you in compliance with federal law has to be a piece of mail, such as a utility bill sent to your address. If you're homeless, you can't produce that. And if you can't produce that necessary point of ID, no driver's license for you. Ask me how I know. So there's entailments to these sorts of things. Whether it's effective at stopping children, whether there's a point to stopping children, those are separate conversations. But the real effect it's really having is creating another us versus them division. It's putting one more little insignificant in the greater scheme of things barrier that's walling off a portion of the population who can no longer have access to a portion of the internet. Granted, that portion of the internet is entirely optional, but it's normalizing the practice. Far be it from me to slippery slope on this subject, and if you want to slippery your slope, yeah, I'll do that more later. I just want to reference it. It is not impossible that in the next few years we end up with an internet where you have to verify your ID for every website. Oh, you want to buy groceries on Amazon.com or whatever? You want to buy a shaver? Well, you need to let the government know you're doing that. Not impossible. Maybe it's not likely, but considering the entire point of all of this is to create a moral justification for someone, if only someone with the courage and conviction stepped up and just took control of everyone else's lives, the world would somehow be a better place. That's the point. The sex is just the controversial subject to say those words.
Is the right one. That's where they should start. They're conservatives. Now start with that and then maybe talk about why we should have legislation that focuses only on pornography and maybe not these other kinds of speech, or maybe, but pornography is the thing I'm talking about. I am really surprised, or no, maybe not surprised, because I think
That's a weird cut. I realize this is an edited interview, but that was a weird cut. I wonder what she said that they cut it, because it was her solo and then it was the 2-up format and she talked something else and then it went back to her solo. So there was an exchange there between the two of them that got removed. maybe I've just been looking at too many conspiracy videos, but something happened there, and I wonder why it was removed.
Just also squeamish about exerting moral judgments in the realm of sex. And that's come from the 1960s, and nobody wants to look uncool and like a prude. And, you know, we all remember how Mary Whitehouse was treated, etc. But, you know, I'm getting to a point now I don't care anymore. I think this is wrong. And I have a daughter. I just can't bear the
Do we shame people for being prudes these days? I don't know. Couldn't be me. To me, like, that's the whole point of choice. If you want to, great. If you don't want to, great. It's your life. It's your body. It's up to you. That's it. That's all there is. No one, the fact there's access to pornographic materials on the internet does not shame prudish people. Modest people, shy people, ace people, people who just don't wanna. It's not cake. Some people having rights doesn't remove your rights. You are a lesbian, Kathleen, and you're old enough to remember when you first got the right to be openly lesbian. You know this. Fuck.
thought of her logging on and seeing like girls with ejaculate all over their faces, with their eyes so red that they can't see, and they're taking pictures of themselves for money. You know, it's that level of depravity.
Just to stay on the online safety.
These shaming culture people, they need to keep their kink to their own damn selves. They need to keep their paraphilia in their own pants and find a willing, consenting partner who wants to be into this whole moral judgment and, oh, society is coming to an end from the moral corruption and turpitude. Oh, heavens, heavens preserve us. For fuck's sake. This goes on for quite some time, folks. There's a part of me that wants to explore it more, but a part of me is saying they're not going to say anything else that's useful, and we're very close to it, 2 hours. I do want to keep this somewhat rewatchable because I would really like people to actually watch this. Like, you know, if you're watching this in the future, subscribe, ring the bell, join us for future discussions and things. Some of them there might even be more discussing and not just me ranting in a comedic fashion. It varies from show to show. It's a little bit of a grab bag over here. But I think I'm gonna lay it down there. At least for now. And if you want to lay it down, head on over to adamandeve.com and enter the code word Brentley for 50% off almost any one item, 6 free movies, 3 free gifts, and free shipping on the whole order. Once again, not my ad. I'm not sponsored. I stole it. Because pirate. Thank you all so much for joining. I have a extra special thank you to add at the end of this video because I appreciate the supporters, especially the people on Patreon and the top level members here on YouTube. It means a shit ton to me, especially considering circumstances that I don't have time to go into, and it's the end of a long video. But I appreciate you all so much. Do enjoy the outro, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Thanks to the top-level members and Patreon supporters for August. Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkisson, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Kalasia, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, The Mighty Filbert, Hunter Biden's Laptops, Larkwright, Greg S., Neurogeezer, Mage Greywolf, Faran Salas, Poor Claire, BTF Wayne, Cosmic Kyle, Bomb Poppy, RDZ, Billy Bongsalot, Marty Cameo, My Unfinished Sock, Austin Sims, Tinker Phil, Anarchic Fox, Sabrina Page, Leslie Hutchings, Gazela Man, Evil Toe, Right-Handed Sith, Luke, D. Murphy, Jesse, Uncle Charlie, Ryan Cultastic, Kurisu Yamato, Scott Duke, Michael Bell, Tsumami, Citizen 9, S. Cook, James Nordoff, Hecklek, Velvet, KCA Randy, B.S. Lewis, Tori Swansiger, Whimsy, Kristen Slays, Godless Engineer, Fern Lovebond, Hillhugger, Karen Butcher, Milwaukee Atheists, Booba Sweat, Maya Atkisson, My Unfinished Studio, Ian Chen Official, Introvert Ancom, Tilting Windmill, Christopher Tablante, Robin Webster, Proby666, Jason T, Action Squad, Robert Madewell, Doc Don Hogg, Jester, Sydney Raptor, Stardust Lilith, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Jake, insert clever dapper inside joke here, Nelson, Supercritical Snake, Eli Slack, Geo Sam, Kalasia789, L Trucker, You Are Victoria, Polly Has His Cracker, Roman Weber, Leo Filius, Nikki Paré, Jasper, Yahooligan, and Pinworm. Thank you all so much. I feel energized and grateful that you're part of this community. Thank you.
Just like a spark that